Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another historical humans heritage. And on today's episode, we are going to Denmark, where we are looking at the Jelling Mounds, Runic stones, and church. Which the Jelling burial mounds and one of the Runic stones are a striking example of pagan Nordic culture, while other Runic stones and the church illustrate the Christianization of the Danes in the middle of the 10th century. Ooh.
Hooray! We
Dun.
killed their religion and replaced it with our own.
Well, not to mention, we borrowed a lot of aspects of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes we put our own shit in there. Listen, the story about Thor's children surviving Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Where do you think that kind of came from? And starting a whole humanity all over again, or something like that.
Yeah. But speaking of famous things, so Jelling is located in a place called Jutland, which is a
That's
big
Jutland.
part. Yeah, a big part of Denmark.
Jutland.
And Jelling's specific function during this era was as a royal monument during the 10th century, under the rule of two kings who have some of the best names ever. The first of which is Gorm.
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 Yeah, Gorm. Gorm.
Gorm.
He's just Gorm.
Gorm.
And his son, the ever famous Harold Bluetooth.
Yeah, Harold Bluetooth. We love good old Harold Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Why was his tooth blue?
It was Wi-Fi enabled.
I was gonna say he had headphones connected to it. It was a speaker.
Yeah. Immigrant Song just starts playing as he sails in towards England.
Oh no.
Yeah. But yeah, this complex as a royal monument is associated with one of the most famous kings of Denmark. In fact, Harold Bluetooth, when he integrated Norway and Denmark into sort of a single polity, celebrated by having a stone erected between the two mounds at Jelling, and ordered the construction of the first ever Christian church at the site.
Got a little bit of let's see, they got a little bit of Jesus and decided Norway and Denmark should be one.
Well, no, I believe it was more of a bloody thing, and then the Jesus showed up, and they're like, "Yeah, sure, we'll build a church to you to celebrate my victory."
And we'll ask for salvation upon our death after the bloody battles and everything. But it's interesting too because excavations in 2006 revealed a series of magnificent palisades surrounding the monument and parts of a ship setting of unknown dimension, which is kind of interesting because this is one of the first conversions to Christianity, and you start seeing something that's very common in these areas, and where you see this religious transformation, you see a conjunction of the two religions and two belief systems. Specifically here, you have the Runic stones, which are a traditional trademark of pagan beliefs and pagan societies, but the fact he also built a wooden church near them also kind of fits. And these two mounds, I don't think we really mentioned, but they're built in honor of his parents. They're built of Gorm and his mother Thyra. And yeah, he's the one who converted a lot of them, and they basically made these as an ornament. And the current whitewashed church is in the place of 3 other churches that were also on this exact same location. And they're basically 2 pagan burial mounds with runic stones and an outstanding example of a Christian church.
Yep. And one of the interesting things is every instance of a church on this site leading up to the current one was destroyed by fire. It's just been a fire every time. It's not been, a sinkhole, a flood, an earthquake, a war. Nope, just a fire broke out, burned the church down. Rebuilt it, a fire breaks out, burned the church down 3 times.
But it's an interesting conjunction of the two, and the first burial mound is built on top of a barrow, which is interesting, and they have wooden centers. And it was cut into an earlier Bronze Age barrow of a smaller dimension. So they basically took someone else's burial barrow, chucked them out, put his father in, built it up, and said, "Okay, we're done." Oh man, I did not know that. That's funny.
That seems like a very Nordic thing to do. Just, sir, should we fare the Barrow-wites? Nah, this is an upgrade. Get in there, pops.
But it is kind of interesting because there has been continuous use of the cemetery and the church, which is incredible because that and its predecessors are 1,000 years worth of time, and there have been some changes over 1,000 years with weathering and inscriptions on the runestones, especially because of erosion. But the church is protected under the Churches and Churchyard Consolidation Act of 1992, and it basically just means any changes or upgrades have to go through the National Diocese, and then they also work in conjunction with the National Museum and the Royal Inspector of Listed State Buildings.
Yeah, so effectively you have the church in Denmark, then you have to go through the museum that's actually running the day-to-day historical site, and then you have to go through the Danish government just to do anything with this.
For good reason.
It's kind of interesting, though, when you look at the buffer zones, because under that same statute, the church has a buffer of about 300 meters, and that prevents any buildings over 8.5 meters from being built. And a conservation order is in place for a distance of 1,000 meters, so a kilometer in the area, north of Jelling, to prevent erection of any building or forestation, so that an uninterrupted view of the monument from this direction is maintained. And the mounds and 2 runic stones are protected under the Museum Act, and it prohibits any activities that may damage or disturb the monuments. And this is the part that blows me away. Do you know how big that buffer zone is?
Yeah.
2 meters.
That's the fun thing I noticed there too, is like within all of these buffer zones, there is a second smaller buffer zone of 2 meters around the runic stones in which no object may enter.
A 2-meter buffer zone. And then the Protection of Nature Act adds an additional buffer of 100 meters around the 2 meters. So they realized that 2 meters may not be enough of a buffer, so they added an extra 100 meters on top of that. So I think that makes it 102 meters, because it says it's around the 2 meter.
Basically what this means is that there's 2 meters in which nothing can enter, around these monuments. And then there's a further 100 meters of buffer zone regulation that falls under all these other stipulations about what can and cannot be done in the presence of these two monuments. So it's just funny, like, we made a layered buffer zone. The closer you get, the less you can do.
And overall, the site has good protections. Like, it has the buffer zones, which they're actually potentially in the talks of extending the buffer zone. They didn't say quite to how much, but that's in the works. And they're working to try and preserve the runic stones from further erosion. So they are working to protect it. And overall, any sort of construction and any sort of works in the region need to go through the local town and local council and the local heritage agency and national museum in order to fully implement their work. So there are stages in protection, and they do work to actively protect it. So kind of a nice positive impact and kind of an interesting site. I didn't know that King Harold Bluetooth was involved in this, and that kind of makes me happier. But I think that's a pretty solid point for us to wrap up for today. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, let us know down below, and we'll see you in the next one.